Welcome back to Daisy Files, a craft channel for true patriots and skeptics. Now today, I'm sculpting the real would-be Trump assassin. Now there's a few things that people know about me. Number one, I'm a very bad YouTuber. Number two, I bleed red, white and blue and the doctors are very concerned. And number three, if there's a truth out there, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Today, I'm here to sculpt the real July 13 gunman, so stick around for the shocking reveal. Now let's get started. I started with a wire armature to sculpt a skeleton, and I fixed the joints with painter's tape before positioning the skeleton in a kneeled position. With a rough position made up, I beefed up the skeleton with alfoil before a second layer of wiring to secure everything in place. I covered the now completed armature in bacon bond and started to give the skeleton some shape with some Sculpey. This gives you a solid surface to work off before adding your details in. Once the base layer of clay was down, I started detailing the pans. I used snakes of clay blended into the pans to create the pleats and wrinkles. At least, that's what I wanted you to think. Now, who stands to lose from Trump being re-elected? The real shooter knew that if Trump was to regain power, the borders would tighten, making this person's business much harder to run. Because of this, Trump had to go. But who was this mystery shooter? Was it Slender Man? Well, everyone knows he was on his honeymoon in Bali. Was it the Hawk Tour girl?
Hawk Tour or not? Donald Trump.
It's a no from me.
Well, her alibi checks out. She's on tour at the moment and was last seen off the Mothman in Oregon. Or was it just some lone wolf? That would be far too convenient. No, the real shooter was Grimace, aka the Grim Reaper, the Purple Widowmaker, the Ghost of McDonald's Land. I hollowed out some space for a mouth and plumped up his lips into a subtle beak before building up his brow ridge to give the face a bit more depth. After adding some cute chubby cheeks, I smoothed out the surface of the body with a silicone blender and then a wash of alcohol before texturing the body. Now Grimace is covered in a flat, short hair, similar to that of a pug or a very unhealthy shark. So for this texture, I used a fine-tooth comb that I lightly raked across the surfaces. I tried to keep the lines flowing vertically and following the natural bends of the body. I chose to work in segments for this build, baking areas of the body as I went. The comb was a great tool for blending these together as it made everything seamless. After one of the several bakes I did, I gouged in some pre-baked balls into the eye sockets. The clay was still warm and slightly flexible, so I was able to get a snug fit. And to finish off the look, a domestic terrorist Rambo-inspired bandana, just to make the scene look a little more dynamic. This was just a super thin piece of cosplay wrapped around his head. Anyway, back to the truth. But why, you may ask? You see, as a part of the McDonald's empire, they rely heavily on foreign spices. Under a new administration, these spices are subject to quite significant tariffs and potential sanctions. Now for the rifle, I made a stencil on some tracing paper and cut the shape onto some super Sculpey which I ran through my pasta maker. After cutting it out, I did a bake just to lock in the main shape. I created some smaller details with a hypodermic needle. I find that this gives me very clean and straight lines. Now, during the previous presidential administration, borders were open, allowing a free flow of AZ23C, a powerful hallucinogenic in McDonald's land, but also a supremely addictive food additive found in the ever-popular Grimace Shake. As such, stocks skyrocketed and everyone was happy, until 2024 rolls around with a new election. To make a fist, I started with a simple cube. There, I was able to chisel out some fingers and some knuckle details. As for the other hand, I wanted to make sure that the rifle would be resting comfortably on the palm. Then I built up some small sausage fingers to hold the barrel. So with a new Republican administration focusing on migration and border wars, the AZ23C will dry up, leading to massive profit loss. As such, he needs to take Trump out and secure another Democratic office for another 4 years. As for the paint job, I went fairly simple. I primed Grimace white before a solid base coat of a soft purple. His bandana got a Rambo red and his mouth and eyes a solid black. Now as for that fateful day, Grimace required two things: the perfect vantage point to take the shot, and they also needed a scapegoat. Enter Thomas Crooks, who was just likely blackmailed by Big Burger to be there on that rooftop that day. With Trump in position, Thomas was told to take the shot, which were blanks by the way. Meanwhile, Grimace at the same time used live ammunition. Fortunately, he didn't account for the Coriolis effect and instead missed, skimming Trump's ear. Also, his fingers are far too big for his mouth. After purpling him up just right, everything got a blackwash. I found this creates much more depth to the fur and dials down some of the vibrancy. When the wash had dried, I went over the fur and the bandana with a dry brush and some highlights. The eyes got 2 black dots for pupils before a coat of UV resin to bring some life into the eyes. The rifle got a deep blue base coat before a black wash and a metallic silver dry brush. As for Grimace and his failed assassination attempt, he's like the wind. In the mad scramble of the day, he was able to escape, and who knows where he ended up. All I know is that this wasn't his first attempt at political upheaval, and it won't be his last. As for the base, I put down a layer of modelling paste before a base coat of light green paint with Mod Podge to seal it. After this, a fine layer of sand with some small pebbles before a hefty covering of static grass. To finish off, I coated the edges in black paint and called this project done. Now you might be asking, why did I suspect Grimace? Is it because he's easy to craft? Maybe. Or is it the Grimace shake gave me uncontrollable IBS in 2023 that I missed out on the midnight screening of Wonka? Also maybe. And that finishes the build and summarizes maybe one of the biggest cover-ups in recent US history. Thanks.